5:45, we'll call the Louisville City Council meeting to order, and we do have a quorum present. City Manager.
So tonight we have a couple of different topics for you. I'd like to start with the Public Art Master Plan. The full plan is in your Dropbox now. So what we're going to do tonight, the consultant is here. He's going to walk you through some highlights. Then we're not going to bring it back to you for approval until December, because I'd like to give you guys some time to look at it, think about it, have questions that we can respond to. So just know tonight it's just kind of an overview. You have the full document again to review, and then we'll be back in December for you to consider approval. With that, I'm going to turn it over to James, and he'll introduce the consultant team, and we'll go from there.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, Council, just one additional point on that timeline. The Arts Advisory Board has received copies of the draft as it currently stands and has had a chance to review it. They'll be discussing that tomorrow night at their meeting. So be aware that they have been a part of the process at this point. So I'm very pleased to bring to you the consultant who's been heading up our Public Art Master Plan project, Mr. Todd Bressi, who has such a long resume of accomplishments that I couldn't even start on them. But when you look at cities, especially in Texas, doing public art master plans, most of the good ones came from him. And Meredith McKinley,
correct, yeah,
who has worked with him on those. So we were very pleased that he submitted a proposal for us. Pleased to select him for it. And he's the expert, so I'll let him do the talking.
okay. Mayor and Council and guests, thank you for inviting me to Louisville to talk about the Public Art Master Plan with you today. The first thing I'd like to say is it's been a pleasure working with this community. It's been a pleasure getting to know this community. It's been great getting to feel the welcome and warmth and learn about the great history that's here. That's the best part of my job, really, is getting to know people all over the place. And I just want to thank you for the welcome you've extended to me and to Meredith to work here with you. This is the end of not the end, but we're about 6 months or so into a process of working with you on a Public Art Master Plan. Today what I'd like to talk with you about for a few minutes are the objectives of this project, what were we asked to do in creating a Public Art Master Plan and why, how we did it and what we learned, and then talk about vision, goals, and opportunities for public art in Louisville. And I'm sure you'll all have questions, and we'll talk throughout about funding and implementation strategies for bringing more projects to Louisville. Last year, the council passed a public art policy and administrative directive, which kind of set balls in motion for this process. One of the things that was required was the creation of a public art master plan. And when we work on public art master plans, these are the components of what we try to include. And I'm sorry if I'm blocking your view.
Good. Talk to the
Would you like me to stand? Okay.
You're fine.
The first question has to ask or answer is why is public art important to a community, which Louisville did in its policy. What is the plan for public art? What kinds of projects? Where would they go? Who would do them? Or when would they occur? And then implementation, we call it the under the hood part. We all like the bright shiny car, we like the bright shiny public art, but when you peek under the hood, how does it all work? Who pays for it? Who does it? And so forth. And those are the things that our master plan has to deliver to you satisfactorily for you to move forward. So that's our goal. So we began in the winter. We go through a phase of research. We go through a long phase of community outreach, envisioning and implementation, and beginning to frame up the recommendations. We submitted our first draft of the plan in July. It's gone through a couple iterations to now where we have a point where we have a public draft of the plan that you have, that the Arts Advisory Board has, that's available for broader review. We will take what we learned from our visit, from the comments you have, from the comments the Arts Advisory Board has, and we will create a final draft plan after that with corrections and changes. And it will also be much more nicely designed than the Word document that you have, and resubmit that so that you can consider this in December, as the city manager said. So that's the timeline that we're on. These are the research tasks we go through. looking at your plans, your policies, driving all over the city. We did benchmarking of peer cities, primarily in Texas, to learn how they went about organizing their public art programs and what was relevant for Louisville to learn. Whenever we do outreach, public art outreach, we try to set a series of goals. What are we trying to accomplish? And this was sort of the map we made for ourselves. I think a big task here is to make people aware of the Public Art Initiative in Louisville, and then we tried to learn how people felt about public art and how it would fit into the city and what their priorities were. The way we went about doing our outreach, we did numerous interviews. We interviewed everyone on council, the mayor, community leaders, people in different city agencies. We had a survey on the internet, a community survey, and got a very good response from that. Set up a booth at the Arts Festival to collect further responses from people who weren't looking at the internet to take a public art survey. We had what we call Imagine Art Here, which is a public workshop that the Arts Advisory Board helped host over at the MCL Grand. We had about 40 people come to that just to kind of brainstorm about what ideas and options there were for public art. In Louisville, we gave the city staff a portable presentation kit in case they wanted to take it around and show it at different meetings. And then potentially we can have an open house, a way for the public to come and look at our recommendations. The Arts Advisory Board was involved, or has been and will be involved. We met with them early in the process to learn about the lay of the land, get their thoughts. As we said about the project, the Arts Advisory Board then helped host the Imagine Art Here workshop, and then we'll be meeting with them again tomorrow night. And their role really has been to advise us, to give us connections to other people, and then to provide, they'll be providing input on the plan. Jim, is this still over there at the MCL Grand? This is one of the.
It may well be over there.
This came from the Arts Festival, I think. It was a board people could put their ideas on. So here are a number of things that we've learned. When people asked us originally, why do we want to work in Louisville, not knowing a lot about Louisville, one of the things that impressed us was the Louisville 2025 plan. I'm a planner, that's my background, and I like working in cities that have good, strong, comprehensive plans and clear visions about where they want to go. That makes my job easy. And in fact, we learned when we read the vision plan, when we read the big moves, when we read your annual reports that you're using as benchmarks to find out how you're tracking against that there are lots of ways that public art could fit very nicely into helping you achieve the goals that you set out in Louisville 2025. In fact, when we go through some of the ideas the plan has, you'll see they track very, very closely with what you're envisioning for the city through Louisville 2025. The areas of the city where you have plans for redevelopment listed here also provide a great framework for thinking about how public art can be part of those communities. And then your parks and trails master plans too provide some valuable insight and ideas. So I think what we found from your plans is a lot of opportunities for public art to be something that you use to reinforce the things you're already doing to build Louisville. It can be part of what you're already planning. Your policy in terms of funding allows you to tap into two funding sources. The capital bonds that were passed a couple of years ago, and your hotel occupancy tax surplus funds. Potentially, if more hotels come online, there might be more money available from that. There are other public financing mechanisms that Louisville uses for capital projects and infrastructure investments that you could tap into for future public art projects. For example, if there are projects recommended for libraries or parks, you can potentially tap into your 4B sales tax. It is allowable to use funds from TIRZ zones to pay for public art in public infrastructure in those areas of the city. So if you're building a bridge, from TIRZ money, you can use some of that money to include public art in the bridge. So you have a lot of structures in place. There's a strong interest in murals in Louisville. You already have a grants program for artists and for nonprofits. You could use that funding stream to support murals. And one thing you haven't tapped into much, but potentially could tap into, is sponsorships from corporate sponsorships to support something like a temporary public art exhibition. So our finding was you already have a lot of the infrastructure in place to include public art and the things you're building or doing in Louisville. It's a matter of whether you would decide whether or not to make those funds available for public art projects. We learned also Louisville is very similar to a lot of its peer cities in that they view public art as one component of a broader arts and culture strategy. Here, of course, your flagship is the MCL brand and the programming that goes on there and the classes that go on there, and you already have a staff infrastructure for that. So it's natural to try to think about how public art is part of that picture to help build the city as an arts destination. So you're thinking about the arts tracks very closely the way other cities are thinking about the arts. And I think that we've learned that most peer cities hope that public art can be created in a way that distinguishes you from other cities, that makes your city unique and kind of captures something about your identity. So again, I think Louisville's hopes track very closely what's happening in other cities. In terms of looking at other cities' funding for public art, like I said before, you have in place a lot of the structures that other cities use to pay for public art should you choose to use them, like HOT, TRZ, 4B, some earned revenue sources. Texas, at least, not many cities have been successful in requiring or asking developers to include public art as part of their projects. That happens more in California or in East Coast cities. On the other hand, there are cities that have been successful, like Richardson, for example, in like when they do 380 agreements on a case-by-case basis, sometimes they can have a developer include public art as part of what they provide to the city as a part of that economic development project. None of the peer cities have a dedicated public art staff member, but what they often do is roll public art duties into other arts and culture staff or other city staff members in other departments. Richardson, for example, there's an assistant city manager who heads up their public art projects. But all have a committee. So in a way, you're tracking very closely what other cities do. And most artworks that other cities commission are located at civic and community facilities. From our survey of people in Louisville, what we learned was by far, Old Town was the place where people felt they'd like to see public art the most. Second, but trailing significantly, trails and greenways and major gateways. Asking people, well, what kind of public art would you like to see in Old Town? The Main and Mill streetscape was one of the top choices. There's a strong interest in murals in Louisville. Gateways and a temporary sculpture exhibition. Those were some of the ideas people felt most strongly about in Old Town. Oops, sorry. We asked people, why is public art important to Louisville? To enhance the city's appearance. But I think really, particularly in our interviews, the idea that comes up is it says make the city a place that people take pride in. People already take a lot of pride in Louisville. They should reword that. But they feel like they would like public art to be part of what makes them proud of Louisville. And they would like to tap into what makes Louisville unique. History, everyone refers to history. Public art should somehow tap into history. But there's also a sense that the environment, the greenway, the flyway, those characteristics of the city are important as well. And then we ask people what they would like public art to say, and those are some of the things that come up. In our workshop, we asked people to talk about their visions for public art. We asked them to talk about public art along the greenway. There's a strong sense of wanting to educate, create connections between people and the natural environment. We asked them about streets and corridors and gateways. And they hoped public art could complement the infrastructure and the landscape. We asked about Old Town. Interestingly, celebrate the historical significance of Louisville and embrace the future at the same time. That's interesting. And then we asked about parks and community facilities. There's a real sense of folks wanting public art that will engage and connect with people in Louisville. So that's something to keep in mind as we move forward. So that's what we did, and that's what we learned about Louisville. we took that back and then we began to assess where did we see opportunities in the city. And that's what the bulk of the plan is about, what those opportunities are and how you might go about taking advantage of them. This is Louisville's definition of public art from your policy, just in case. Visually or physically accessible to the public and acquired or donated to the city of Louisville. It's pretty crisp, pretty succinct. And this is the vision for public art as we've developed it, a vision statement based on the things we heard in our interviews and research. I think it's important for public art to connect to Louisville's spirit, its character, its identity. There's a lot of conversation about being memorable. The public art should be something that people can commonly think of, and it should be in key locations. And so we tried to take those ideas and bind them up into a vision statement. These are goals from the public art, from your policy already, except for the one in blue. There's a new goal that we've added based on our conversations and research, which is to create symbols of the city. So everything you had in your policy was on target based in terms of what we've learned from what people are interested in, except we also heard that folks hope that public art could create new symbols for Louisville. So we suggest adding that as a goal. So from that, then we talk about potential projects. And we've really broken it into two categories, what we call civic projects, which are things that the city would do, and then private development projects, which are things that you might enter into partnerships with the private sector to do or encourage developers to do. Civic projects are broken into 4 categories, 3 on this slide and 1 on the next slide. And the 3 categories here, immediate means things that are underway now, or projects that are underway now in the city where you could consider public art. The Multi-Generational Center already is a project where public art is being planned for and included, being funded through the bond issue. The Main and Mill Streetscape project, which extends all the way down Main Street towards the train station, is a second project, and there's 2 opportunities there for public art, one at the intersection of Mill and one at the kind of gateway to Old Town as you come up the hill from the train station, the Eastern Gateway. The next group of projects.
Can I go back on that one? So you did fund $60,000 in this year's budget that could be used for public art. James, did you want to talk about that at all?
Yes. We did just some preliminary scoping of those 2 locations, the Main and Mill Streetscape and the Eastern Gateway in Old Town. And looking at those, $50,000 to $60,000 should be able to do a pretty nice, and you'll see some more examples later on, a pretty nice treatment at Main and Mill. The one at the Gateway was significantly more expensive just because of the placement of what would need to be there to be visibly attractive and memorable. So we did request money in the budget that was approved, $60,000 toward the Main and Mill public art.
The second group of projects, the second priority, are the projects in the bond issue for which you've already set aside or allocated funds for public art. That will be the greenways, the central node, and corporate drive, and those hopefully would happen within a 5-year time horizon. And the last category on this page, other 5-year near-term priorities, are projects that are close enough on the horizon that you might want to start planning for them, like the Nature Center in the environmental education area, potential nature park, Valley Vista Nature Park, where there's some conceptual thinking going on. And then in the Parks Master Plan, there's a recommendation that a number of park pavilions be built or replaced, and that's another potential project for public art as you go along. So those might be other things to look at over the next few years. So this will be the core of your main opportunities for the next several years, unless there were new things that came to the horizon. The last category of civic projects are sort of things to put a bookmark on. These would be great opportunities for public art if an opportunity arises to do it. And an opportunity might be a development project or a capital project that slips in. And I'll go through all of those in a second. This is a mapping of all the projects that are recommended. You'll see a lot of them cluster around Old Town, some up in the environmental education area, and then potentially along the greenway system. The multi-generational center obviously is underway. This is an artwork by the same artist, Chabot Studios, that's working on that project now. This is in a different place, but as I understand, it's kind of the same sort of idea as they're working on in Louisville. It turns out that's a nice gathering spot. The Main and Mill Streetscape is another near-term idea for which James said there's funding been set aside already. There's a low retaining wall there, and one possibility is to reimagine that maybe it's a seating wall or a wall with mosaic on it, or a wall that has relief. This is historical relief from El Paso. So there's some kind of surface piece on a retaining wall might be what you're looking at there. The Eastern Gateway, which again is where Church and Main come together, Railroad Street, Church and Main come together. There's a potential for some sort of landmark type sculpture. This is a piece in Nashville, a trail system, or this is a temporary piece that was in Virginia. So you could put a temporary piece there in the meantime, if you wanted to wait a few years to put a permanent piece there. In terms of the other projects in the bond issue, Louisville's a beautiful greenway system. Potential there are things that potentially mark the trails, mark the trailheads, identify the different segments, different routes. This is a project we worked on in Lexington, where artists simply painted these little carpets or mats, so to speak, every mile or so along the trail system. Very inexpensive, but lots of fun. So there are ways to kind of create simple pieces throughout the trail network. The central node is of course down near where 121 and 35 meet. That might be the place for more of a kind of prominent gateway type sculpture for Louisville. Something potentially humorous. Corporate Drive, I understand one of the ideas council's had is to incorporate art into the bridges in Corporate Drive. This is a project for San Antonio, where they basically design the bridges with these with room for these insets to be put in, and the artists design them, and later on they come in and plop them in the bridges. And each bridge has a different color, a different style, a different artist. So it's a very, very lovely way to create a very simple and inexpensive way to include public art in bridges. Other things that might come up in the near term, the Nature Center, a project that might reflect on the environmental characteristics of the area. This is in California, where it's under a flyway, and the arrival and departures of the birds are kind of marked the way you might at an airport or a train station, so people actually know what's happening with the birds. As you think about the nature park, as the thinking evolves, there might be opportunities to do something very interesting, like a gateway or entry feature that kind of captures some of the spirit of the environment. This is also in San Antonio. As you do park pavilions, you might consider whether there's opportunities to have an artist design a park pavilion, potentially in a place like Central Park, where it's sort of a main gathering place for the city. What you might do there is take the basic budget for a park pavilion, whatever that is, and then supplement it with what it costs to have an artist work on that project. So you're kind of budget sharing for a project like that. And the last category of civic projects are projects you might just keep an eye on, things you could do when the opportunities come up. The Main and the Mill Street corridor plan suggests that there might be some kind of feature at this location. So as that plan evolves, as redevelopment occurs, you might consider a southern gateway to Old Town at this location. Something like this marker potentially, which is also in San Antonio. The area where Church and Main come together on the west side of Old Town, it's a very challenging intersection, but it's a place to think about whether you might have some kind of feature that welcomes people coming from the west, moving east into Old Town. This is from Austin. I love this as a potential idea. some kind of gate, or literal gate feature. You know, one thing we heard about Leela is folks feel it's so special and so unique that it's really not a great place to have art in it, that might actually impinge on the experience of being in the environment, but perhaps at the entryway, at the gateway where people come in from the city, that might be a nice place for something to kind of acknowledge that you're at the environmental learning area. So some sort of marker or gateway at the entranceway might be a nice idea. The green centerpiece is big move number one. It's a bold idea that caught my attention when I was reading your plans and made me think, oh, these are people I want to get to know who can think about turning what you have into something like this, into a green centerpiece. So one thought is to create an artist residency, simply to have an artist come to Louisville, explore the landscape, and then develop a project after they've had a chance to get to know the community and get to know the landscape. So you wouldn't start with a project in mind, but you would start with the fact that you would like to have an artist interpret this landscape and create a unique project, which could be a permanent project or a temporary project. This is an artist I know had a residency at a similar area in a place in Japan, actually, and this is what she developed, which was a sort of temporary installation of the styrofoam buoys, which are part of a water environment on bamboo reeds, and they shift in the wind and blow, and they're very fascinating for people who were using the trail system. So it might be interesting to have an artist come develop a project to simply interpret that for people who are using the green centerpiece. Part of the green centerpiece at the lower end of it, down near Hebron 121, in that study for that area of the city, the idea of an environmental showcase, that's what it's called, came up, where there might be open space, public open space around water features. That would be another potential place for a signature art project. This is in Grand Prairie, Texas, where they organized a very similar idea, where they organized some city facilities, community center, senior center, around a new store. It's actually a lake that's used for stormwater, and they commissioned this artwork as part of that. In that part of the city is where the Texas International Pop Festival occurred. Its 50th anniversary is coming up, before you know it, in a couple of years. So you might think about a way to commemorate that. This is from Vancouver. It's a commemorative artwork in which those panels have pictures of the historical events that happened on that site. Nowadays you might use video. By the time this project came around, it might be virtual reality, who knows, but there might be a way to commemorate the Pop Festival. And that's an idea that came up a lot in the conversations. I think people are looking back at that nostalgically now. City Hall's a location. You had, I think a lot of what got people started thinking about public art in Louisville was the Slicker Shy sculpture that was out, and then it was removed, and people were thinking, maybe we should think more about art in Louisville. So you have a great location for public art already, so at some point you might want to commission a real civic artwork, a piece that kind of celebrates the spirit of the city somehow. This is from Texas Tech in Lubbock, from the campus there.
Oh, did I do that?
I know, it's politics. You mentioned college, it was politics.
I thought that was your Louisville High.
Let me just say this. One of the first, I think it was the University of Houston, was one of the first universities in the country to adopt the idea of putting public art on campus, and it took an act of the legislature to do that. So maybe your school, it may not. But you can all say that Texas was at the forefront of supporting public art on its college campuses, because that's true. College and Wayne Ferguson Plaza has, in its original plans, a little niche, kind of in the southwest corner for where public art might go. So at some point you might consider including public art there. That might be a great piece for a donor to help fund an artwork in Louisville. Something that looks good in that kind of natural setting. So this is a Texas artist, James Searles, who came to mind as the kind of person who does art that would look good in that part. Central Library is one of the most important civic buildings in Louisville. I've been there a few times and wandered around. It's just great seeing all the different people there and how busy it is. And the atrium is really calling out for a great art piece there. I mean, that's something very fun and exciting. This is at a library in Nashville, the same idea. It's a place where people, just a great cross-section of the city gather. It'd be a terrific place for an artwork. The children's area could be a place as well. Right now there's lighting and there's little, they're called gobos, which show up here. But it might be a possibility of, there's a band here, Freeze, that might be a possibility of doing a mural or something like that. I couldn't find a picture of this mural that was done, but the artist published a book about it. I thought, oh, a library book mural. This happens to be an artwork that was done with kids who are kind of thinking about knowledge. And what is in their head are things they've learned, and they do these things on their own. And so there might be a way to do a fun project with youth to create some kind of freeze-type mural in the library. There's a couple of buildings in the city where there's a really good, where there are places for exhibitions or potential for including them. I think the library, the visitor center, City Hall, the multi-generational center are sort of the main buildings where people go or where you want to talk about what Louisville is. And we thought it might be great to conceive of all of those. And of course you have art exhibits at the MCL Grant. We thought it might be a good idea to look at all of those places and include room for exhibits in all of those buildings that talk about art, culture, and history in Louisville, and kind of curate them all together as one group, so that any of these main buildings you go into, you will see exhibitions that are about the city. This is from the library. Another thought is to have a temporary sculpture exhibition, primarily in Old Town. This, as you recall, was one of the ideas that people were very interested in when we did the survey. The thought here is that you would issue a call to artists or ask artists to loan you pieces that you could exhibit for a year or so. This is sort of my kind of scoping out of where there's possible locations for that. The idea would be to get people walking around more than they do now, explore all the corners, so they can make sure they can see all the artworks. The artist would donate the pieces maybe for a year or so. Commonly what happens is the artists are allowed to sell them, so they like doing it so they can have them out for people to buy them. This is from Suwanee, Georgia. What Suwanee does is they have people vote on the favorite sculpture, and the city purchases the people's favorite sculpture and places it somewhere in the city.
That was easy because it really doesn't require any type of platform for the art.
Yeah, I don't know how those are mounted.
Oh, I did. I wanted to talk to you about a plinth.
About a what?
A plinth.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
having it come out on an annual basis or every other year gets people excited, gets them interested, having them vote as a way to get them engaged with the art. And it's a way for the city to also build a collection as well by having these things chosen. So that's the variety of things that we call civic projects, things that the city could initiate. And as I said before, I think most of these projects can be done either with the funding that you've already, streams you've already created through HOT and through bonds, or by allocating funds from future bonds or 4B or other kinds of mechanisms you already use to fund your projects. I don't know that there's a need for vast new kinds of sources. It's just a matter of looking at the sources you already use and making decisions along the way about whether you would like to make public art investments. And the second category of things, which will be shorter, is how to think about public art in private development. These are the key development areas for which you have specialized plans. The Northern Gateway, for some of it, zoning has already been put in place. The thought here is that the Northern Gateway already calls out gateways and landmarks. It's in the plan. Those are really great possible locations for public art. So as you're working with the developers and going through the approvals, you might ask them, well, how are you going to create the gateway landmark? Would you consider using public art as a way to do that? Or there's an open space system, different kinds of parks, linear parks, promenades, civic parks, natural parks. And again, you can compare those two maps and think about where there are real good opportunities for public art while you're working with the developers and their plans. These are the kinds of things that In other places, developers have added to their projects. This is in Minneapolis. This isn't a develop. This is also done by Shavo Studios, a Plaza type place. So as you work with developers to build out these new parts of the city, this can be part of the conversation. The Old Town TOD doesn't talk about public art or public space in the same way, but there are some kind of places called out, corner places that could be new public open spaces, and these are the kinds of things you might think about creating. This is a small little plaza in Montgomery County, Maryland, or a beautiful bronze sculpture right on the edge of a seating area at a restaurant. This is in Virginia. These are the ways that you can discuss with developers whether they can include public art in their projects as part of the agreements you negotiate. There's hope for some sort of gateway feature, identity focal point in each of these areas, including the southern area. It doesn't hurt to think big. El Paso just built these with the help of TxDOT on I-10. And this is the intersection. You can see here, El Paso Airport. So people coming in or leaving the city go through this intersection. This is what they see. These are all wind-driven and they light up at night. But there was cost sharing here between El Paso, the city, and TxDOT. If I'm not mistaken, the city paid for the artist and TxDOT paid for the rest. And it was part of a mitigation plan that the city and TxDOT agreed to for rebuilding the highway as it went through El Paso. And I know you've just finished I-35, but if in the southern part of the city, if you are thinking about new bridges or new interchanges as things develop there might be ways to think about, this is pretty ambitious, but something that's related to those intersections as a gateway feature as part of that project. Hotel Conference Center is a place you might have a nice traditional piece of art like this piece down the road. Again, as that is developing, that would be a potential location. The boardwalk area, which is supposed to be another environmental area, you might think about how the infrastructure funding for that area might include artist design features like this overlook. And the last thing I'll mention is mural grants. There's a strong interest in murals in Louisville, and we recommend the plan that you simply seed this idea of murals by allowing murals to be one of the things that can be funded through your existing grant program. There might be some things you have to do in terms of artist agreements and wall agreements to make that work, but I think you kind of basically have the infrastructure in place. We wouldn't recommend the city go about creating the murals, but if there's an artist or a property owner who wants to create a mural, there's ways the city can kind of help facilitate that and enable that. So that's the essence of what is in the plan. And we're here for a while longer to answer questions. Thank you.
Anybody have any comments or questions?
Mayor, I might add one. So the funding mechanism you have now, you remember you have hotel motel money that under the state statute up to 15% can be spent on public art. And so what we have done now, we took that historic money, and that was that number that you saw earlier. I believe it was 580, James?
It's actually 662. I gave you a bad number.
Oh, did you?
662 is the current balance.
Okay. It's a good number because it's higher than what he gave me. That's always better, higher.
I've got it right here. Pull it up.
Yeah, so, and then how that builds every year. So you have your arts grants that you fund under that 50% cap. We never fund that whole 15%. The next fiscal year, after we've audited the prior year, and we have a firm number, then we go back and we look at what we spent versus what that 15% was in reality, based on the revenues that came in that prior year in hotel motel revenues, and that gets moved over to your capital public art project. So next year, if the money came in at what it's actually budgeted, the revenue, I believe that's about 23,000 that would be generated that would go to your public art project. That's if you don't, and we're going to talk about that on another agenda item, you don't spend it on other public art projects.
Comments, questions? Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Straight to the next one?
No, straight to the next one.
With no introduction. Thank you. So this will be very brief, especially since a significant portion of our program changed about an hour ago. So we're going to talk to you about fireworks options in Old Town. Very quickly, this is what we did this past year. We had the fireworks in Old Town. We launched from the Upper Trinity site across from the train station. It happened to be that July 4th was a Tuesday, so we had a Sounds of Louisville concert scheduled anyway. We brought in an additional band, some other entertainment, some additional food trucks. Drew about 5,000 people, which certainly exceeded the capacity of Wayne Ferguson Plaza. That it covered our parking lots, our streets. It was a very good crowd. Mixed reviews. The entertainment was very popular. The seating was very popular. The fireworks were too low to the horizon for a lot of people. Plus, first year you didn't know where to look until they started going off, and then people started shifting around. So we looked at it and realized that that launch site was not ideal. It was the best we could find at the time. We wanted to look at other options for 2018. So we looked at a list of options. We looked at the same location to see could we make that work in 18. And I'll address each of these very briefly after this slide. We looked at the rodeo arena in the grass parking area north of the paved parking. We looked at Louisville landfill. That's the one by Republic Services over there at Valley Ridge and College. We looked at City Hall rooftop as a low proximity show. We looked at MCL Grand rooftop for a low proximity show. We looked at the time, at the Walters Street parking lot with, again, a low level show fired from there. And always the option of not doing fireworks in Old Town. So that's all the options we researched. We eliminated 4 of the 6 options pretty quickly. The rodeo arena is simply too close to the commercial in the north and the residential in the south to have a safe fallout zone that would allow us to do a good show. City Hall, largely because of crowd control issues. If we're shooting off the roof, the building is so tall, the fallout zone would keep people out of the City Hall Plaza and probably keep them off of Church Street. So they're all pushed back into Wayne Ferguson Plaza in order to keep the fallout from landing on people, which I'm told is a bad thing. The Walter Street, we're building townhomes there. Well, they are being built. So Walter Street was eliminated. The Upper Trinity site, we could make it work one more time, but remember there's going to be a multifamily, I believe a 4-story multifamily built immediately to the west of there on the other side of the railroad tracks. That plus the low elevation of that site, really currently we only allow an 8-inch shell, and those are the most visible. The 6-inch shells were barely visible. When the apartments are built, our max will be 6 inches. So we know already that the biggest we could do with the apartments will not be big enough to see them clearly from Wayne Ferguson Plaza. So we eliminated that. That originally left 2 viable options, the landfill and MCL Grand. And I will tell you that about an hour ago we heard from the landfill. We were waiting for corporate approval. That did not come through. They have chosen not to participate.
So Tim got that phone call. Do you want to share the reasoning?
Yeah, we were discussing with Mr. Cox, who's the, I'll say the general manager of the local site, and he was very enthusiastic about it. He thought it would be a great idea. But he had to kick it up to the corporate headquarters, wherever they're located. And they analyzed it and said, number one, their risk liability they felt was too high, and they also felt they'd possibly be in conflict with the TCEQ that they have to run the landfill. So they had to decline, sadly enough.
So that was one of our 2 viable options that we now have shifted to the eliminated list, which leaves one viable option that we've identified at this time, understanding that the option of not doing them is still on the table, and that is the MCL Grand roof. Now this would take fireworks from the elevated part of the roof, the wings, and even the wings coming out toward Charles Street. The advantages here, we control the site, so we could use those rooftops as long as we felt like it, as long as the fire marshal said we could. Also, because the building is not as tall and because of where it's located, we would have to keep people off of the MCL Grand property itself, but we probably could allow people on much of Church and possibly even Charles Street. And certainly Wayne Ferguson Plaza would have a great view of that show. And because they're smaller, low-level fireworks, the cost for shells is lower, which means we either could use that money elsewhere or have a whole lot more shells to fill out that show. The disadvantage is it's not a high-level, high-altitude show like we used to have at the mall area, like people were expecting last year, and we tried to give them. it would not be that. And because it's a low-level show, even with the height of the building, the largest crowd we can see being accommodated, if people hung out in their front yards all around, would be about 4,000 people. A little less than we had last year, maybe about the same, but it certainly wouldn't be the 20, 30, 40,000 we sometimes had in the Vista Ridge Mall area. So it'd be a slightly smaller crowd, but we would control the site and we would have some cost containment opportunities. So at this point, the recommendation we're offering is, well, we'll skip the date option, is option 2 is do it off the roof of MCL Grand. And the other option is we just don't do fireworks in Old Town and we see literally what develops moving forward if other opportunities come along.
You could still have a band perform on the stage in Wayne Ferguson Plaza?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the fire marshal's telling me yes.
Yeah, it's far enough away that it's way off from the fallout zone from that.
But all of the MCL Grand is closed, including the restaurant.
On July 4th, the building would be closed, yes,
Yeah.
from before the show to the end of the show.
Which could be more problematic for certain years, you know, so if you have it on a Monday where you normally don't have a lot of activities, that's one thing, but if it's a Saturday where you would like to have activities, it becomes more
Now
problematic.
Denise, I know you're new, so maybe don't have quite the history, but July 4th as a booking date, how would loss of that date affect you?
It probably wouldn't be that problematic because most of the seasons of the regular presenters are wrapped up by that point of summer and it's a vacation time, so it probably isn't that Horrendous. critically.
I believe it's usually one of our slower months, right? January and July tend to be our slowest. There is still a risk though. If somebody wanted to come in and do an event, especially a courtyard event on July 4th, they have to clear out by mid-afternoon. We wouldn't be able to accommodate them in the evening.
Yeah, taking the restrooms out of the mix may be more problematic for the area.
We would have to bring in more portlets, and of course, eventually we hope there'll be a support structure in the plaza. So,
That's something we have lower costs, so we might be able to shift some costs to.
That's
Indeed,
right.
there are
That's
lower
exactly
costs,
right.
and there's a possibility of lowering them even farther, and that is if we look at date options. We have always done fireworks on July 4th, no matter what, whether it's a Saturday, a Monday, a Wednesday, a brand new day we haven't discovered yet. We've always done them on July 4th. That is the second most expensive night of the year to do fireworks. New Year's Eve is more expensive. This is the second most expensive. Other cities have found that by moving just one day off the 4th, they have a 20 to 30%, would you say, savings?
Every bit of it.
Sometimes even more. And also on July 4th itself, if it's not on a Tuesday, we don't have budget or money in the budget for entertainment. We would have to find that money elsewhere in the budget. If we were to move it to the closest Tuesday to July 4th, or the Tuesday before the 4th, or the closest Tuesday, that's kind of a flexible idea, we would have entertainment in the plaza already scheduled. We'd have vendors already scheduled. We'd have enough savings in the fireworks, we could still add a second or even a third band to the plaza and stay within our existing event budget. So those are the options we have for date, is July 4th or closest Tuesday to July 4th. And so our recommendations, we have to change that first one. Our launch site recommendation now is if we have fireworks in Old Town, we recommend using the roof of MCL Grand because literally every other option has been eliminated with current conditions. And our event date, because of the cost savings and because of the chance to take advantage of what we're already doing with Sounds of Louisville, event staff would like to recommend the closest Tuesday to the 4th. Having said that, we can make it work either way.
So council, the reason we're asking you this question tonight is soon we really need to be doing a bid for fireworks and moving forward and setting this date and getting some contract underway, etc. So we need some guidance tonight.
Well, when I read through this, I was going to vote for Louisville landfill and the closest Tuesday. So since Louisville landfill is out, I'll go with the MCL Grand. But I like the Tuesday because it fits in with sounds and everything else.
So the closest Tuesday? Prior to the 4th?
Either before or after. I was trying to think that.
It's July 3rd.
I know July 3rd is the closest one this year.
And each year it'll creep ahead a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, my concern is the bathroom and the kind of truncating the site where people can see because we had 5,000 last year, and if we continue to try to do it, it's gonna grow, and it's gonna seem like it's gonna become kind of difficult to maintain that site. And I know last year we talked about maybe trying to not compete with Flower Mound, who has a big show, maybe trying to look at San Jacinto Day or some other day.
It's another alternative.
That would probably, because I think we get lesser crowd, and maybe it'd be manageable at the sites that we're talking about. But the bathrooms, I think, is going to be a big deal until we get that support center built.
So you'd rather not do anything
I would rather
around
not do
the
it.
July 4th show?
Yeah.
Right.
I like the closest Tuesday, and I think that does a couple things. One, I like the lower price, it coordinates with the Tuesday, but it also gives our citizens, except when the 4th of July is on a Tuesday, that they can, you know, on the 4th, they can do the Flower Mound option. You know, Addison has made a history of the 4th on the 3rd, you know, that for so many years they did that. I think it's a great idea to go with just the Tuesday and keep it there. And then they have all the options. They can do ours Tuesday night. They can do, you know, if the 4th is, you know, the next night at Flower Mound or Addison or whatever, they can enjoy all of them.
MCL Grand, low-level show.
Got no choice.
No choice.
I grew up on low level plus demolition derby. That's 4th of July for me. So I know it's strange, but that's what we had when I was a kid. And so I love the low level shows. I think they're really cool. They're really right there in the middle of it. I mean, it's a lot better than you see the flash and then you hear the boom like 3 seconds later. So that's my personal on that. So I love the launch site idea. For me, I worry about adding another special event to the calendar. I know how hard we work our staff, and I know how dedicated they are. I'm having a hard time adding another event without really digging into it. So I like the idea that we're doubling down on the Sounds of Louisville. So we're leveraging what we're already doing. So I really like that. Plus, I like the idea of shifting it off of the 4th. Living in Massachusetts, all the people have heard me tell this story. Freaked me out because the week running up to the 4th of July, everybody does their fireworks except Boston. Because you can't out Boston. So everybody pre-parties. I think having a pre-4th pre-party makes complete sense, is a great way to put this and make it a little bit different and, you know, still be something for Louisville.
Neil?
Where to start? Well, I brought up the restroom issue and you've heard it echoed. I think that's a real consideration. I think there are people who you hear them say, and it's, you hear people say, you know, I'm not happy using the porta potties, and I get that. And we see a lot of use of the restroom, so to shut that down seems unfortunate. We're shutting down the art gallery. It might not be a big deal to everybody. It's a consideration to me. This whole issue of moving fireworks, for me, began with the very fact that if you don't launch them on the 4th or New Year's Eve, you save a lot of money. And so I'm not keen to be on those dates because you're just spending a lot of money just to be on those dates. I think everybody accepts now that, you know, you don't have to have your fireworks, you know, absolutely on that date. I want to look at the calendar around us and see what other cities are targeting for next year. Boomtown and Flower Mound in particular, possibly Grapevine, we kind of know what they're going to do, I can guess. And just make sure where that leads us. But I think the primary thought that keeps going through my head through all of this is, yes, we do have the summer concert series on Tuesday, but July the 4th is to me, a very different event. It was coincidental with the Tuesday concert this year. Worked out very nice. But I personally am not tied to having a July 4th event be a Tuesday concert, or think that my Tuesday concert has to occur whether we're doing July the 4th or not. Or let me put that in plainer terms, I have no problem looking at a schedule of summer concert series that are Tuesday nights and a 4th of July event that's on the 3rd, pick a day. Do you follow me? So
Regularly scheduled Independence Day event separate from the concerts if necessary.
Yes, I don't see the need to link the summer concert to 4th of July and vice versa. To me, that I can make that date movable because of what it is. So I don't have to tie it to a Tuesday. And as we get each year down the road, we're going to be Wednesday next year, and then Thursday the following year, and then Friday the following year, and then we hit that break point going, well, do we go Saturday, or do we want to go Monday, or, you know, where are we going to go next? And, yeah.
The deal about having it on Tuesday, that would be the date. Tuesday would be the date. It would be the concert and the fireworks, which would take care of that part. It used to be something else added to it. So all I want is fireworks.
Why don't we do this, Council? Let me go back and look at the surrounding cities and look at their July 4th schedule and see what that looks like. And let's look at San Jacinto Day and kind of how that falls out. And let me bring a report back probably in early December that lays out some of those additional options and answer some of the questions that a few of you brought up and some of your concerns.
I got a question. I had no idea on the pricing of them, but the nicer air-conditioned trailer restroom facilities.
With the savings, we probably could, I was asking Darren about that. With the savings, if we're not on the 4th, we probably could bring in one of those.
Yeah.
So yeah, Darren actually did some research for us this last budget year. So the cost of one of those is...
To rent or to buy?
Well, you looked at both, to share both.
The rental on those things, depending upon how big they are and how long you need them, can run anywhere between $1,800 to $3,500 an event. That's usually a one-time deal. And there's also some infrastructure like electrical. You need to run power to them, and there's a plumbing concern to them. The one day, one event, one rental is good because then you don't have them serviced. The service charges can run. They can get you pretty good.
Okay.
Let me do a little bit more research and bring it back, James, in December.
We'll have it ready for you this week.
Good, thank you.
And then James has one more. You want to talk about holiday?
We're just going to give a quick update, and I'm going to have Darren do this, quick update on our schedule for Stroll.
Yeah.
The two dates, the November 18th and the December date.
Basically what we're doing is we're taking the festival component of the holiday stroll and we're putting that on November 18th to get us out ahead of the, separate us from the pack a little bit. I know that was one of Councilor Gilmore's concerns, trying to get us separated a little bit from the herd because everybody and their brother does their events on December 2nd. We're taking that festival component, the winter carnival stuff, where we take the little rides. We're bringing in a simulated ice rink this year. It's not going to be actual ice. It's that kind of mylar surface stuff that they lay out. And you can actually ice skate on it. So we're going to bring in one of those, and we'll bring in some of the traditional, the mechanical bulls, the mechanical rides, those types of things. We'll do the entertainment on the WFP stage. That will consist of the local Tappy Tappies, that type of stuff. And then we'll also do the lighting ceremony that we do. And we'll do a movie in the plaza as well. Looks like we're going to go and take another run at Polar Express since we didn't get it in last year with the rain and so forth. And we'll bring in the pony rides and the petting zoos and that type of stuff. Schedule-wise, we're looking at starting that at noon and running it to 9 o'clock or whenever the movie lets out. We're also bringing in a Lightwire Theater, which is really cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Lightwire Theater is going to come into a 30-minute show, and they're going to walk around and take pictures with people. And they've also got a televised Christmas special that's going to air in December. So we're going to get right in the center of that promotional engine for that thing. And sometimes it pays to be lucky than good.
Yeah. Their show in Dallas is January.
Yeah. So we're gonna be able to get right in the middle of that promotional engine for Lightwire Theater. So we're pretty excited about that. And I'm already leaning on a pretty good little corporate sponsor for that thing too that I think I can leverage and hopefully pull that off.
So one thing Council had asked about would be some kind of Christmas market. And I think you did some research and...
We reached out to Four Seasons who did our farmers market for us for the Sounds of Louisville. They've opted not to participate, wanting to lay into more of their motif of the weekly market, consistent and not necessarily do one-offs. We've not really had a chance to look into other options, looking at maybe too late to do our own. Maybe that's something we grow into for a market option. We also are looking at bringing in some strolling entertainment for that magician that we bring in. I don't know if you've had a chance to see that guy, but he's fabulous. So we're going to try to keep a lot of the on the ground type stuff on that 18th day. Going into December 2nd, that becomes basically your Christmas parade. Your Huff Hines Auto Dealership Christmas parade. And that will incorporate the pancake breakfast with the Rotarians and the photos with Santa, our little photo buttons, the toy run, and some music on the stage, and then we'll wrap that up with the parade. And that's basically starting at 8 o'clock and running that till parade ends 12:31, something like that.
I'll add that we met several months ago with representatives from Main and Mill Association. And at that time, they were generally supportive of this. They had some specific requests about what street the parade is on and when the closures are so they could get the maximum exposure. Since then, we've had some questions raised specifically related to the luminary walk for Old Town Preservation Society. That's they put their candles out in bags, and they have decorated houses that they get people to go and walk around and look at. And they don't feel like they can have that ready on the 18th when we're having a nighttime activity, and they're probably right. People don't usually decorate in early November. What we've told them is if they do that some other time in December, it doesn't have to be tied to us. We can work with them. We can probably even bring in a band, put them on the stage to help make it more of a draw, but it likely would not be attached to the stroll event just because of the timing on that.
Good.
And we also wanted to take that parade and set it back on its traditional route, not run it down Church Street like we do, the last couple of years, run it down Main Street. So that provides the Main and Mill folks an opportunity to do their elf scavenger hunt and those types of things with that parade audience right there on the street.
Okay, just going to run through this agenda real quick. Item 1, continued hearing.
Day specific, you'll notice November 20th, listed on your recommendations.
Item 2, on the consent. Item 3.
This is the item that we talked about in the earlier art presentation. So this is an art project grant. It's not in your budget. We'll try to absorb it if you want to do it, but it will fall under the art cap. And so in the end, it will lower your transfer to around $15,000. So it's kind of an issue of prioritization. Now it is on consent, so if you would prefer not to do this and instead have that money go to your public art project, you would just need to pull this and give us direction.
Okay. Item 4. Regular hearings, item 5. Item 6. Item 7.
I have a question on that. Since Councilman Ferguson brought that up, do you have a recommendation on which one of the 3 individuals? I have my idea of which one I feel is best. Do we need to say, I mean, does that need to be part of the motion tonight?
Well, the motion is to appoint someone. And yes, you have 3 people in the packet. So if you've got something, you got to put your recommendation.
I had Eric. Yes. See that?
I'm
more of an arts background.
Big fan of Mr. Bowen. He's doing some really great work down there.
I met him once.
Good. Just anything else?
have our new sustainability manager here, Mindy White. She started last week, Mindy. So you're going to see her around. She's going to be focused on, obviously, sustainability. You want to tell the council a little bit about your background?
I was just going to tell, well, you can give her background. You can totally talk for yourself. I come from a long line of municipal government. I spent about 10 years with the city of Denton previously. I've also worked in higher education at the University of North Texas and TWU here. Pretty diverse experience with environmental services, but I've also done quite a bit with volunteer management and event planning. So I feel like that mix will probably serve me pretty well here. I look forward to working with everyone here in Louisville. I'm very excited about it. We got it. She also has a master's in public administration.
Yes. Just that.
Is it from UNT or Texas Tech?
It's from UNT.
There we go.
I didn't hold it against her.
I got a good one.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything else? Okay, we'll reconvene at 7 o'clock. We'll call tonight's meeting of the Louisville City Council to order. We do have a quorum present. First item of business will be the invocation by myself, followed by the pledges to the American and Texas flags by Mayor Pro Tem Daniels. Join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
We'll now have some proclamations by Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Jones.
Okay, we got a lot of proclamations tonight. I will start with the chamber. We have any members from the chamber that are here that would like to step forward? Whereas communities across the state of Texas will recognize Chamber of Commerce Week on October 16th through October 20th to celebrate the challenging work and accomplishments of Chamber of Commerce and the communities they represent. The proclamation of the week issued by Governor Greg Abbott states, Chambers of Commerce have fostered job creation, improved education, and developed infrastructure. These organizations have literally laid the foundation for many communities, contributing to a better future for all Texans. And whereas Texas Chamber of Commerce Week is coordinated annually through the Texas Chamber of Commerce Executives Organization, TCCE. TCCE is an organization of chamber executives from across the state working together to improve the business climate in Texas while developing ways to enhance the quality of life in the communities that they represent. Whereas the Louisville Area Chamber of Commerce members, staff, and volunteers are routinely involved in the many areas of the community. These include the Louisville City Council, Louisville Planning and Zoning Commission, Old Town Design Review Committee, Blue Ribbon Louisville 2025 Advisory Committee, Louisville Industrial Development Corporation, Business Development, Business Retention, Business Recruitment, Education and Workforce Development, Community Development, and Beautification, among others. Whereas the Louisville City Chamber of Commerce was recently recognized as the most award-winning Chamber of Commerce in Denton County by earning more awards over the last 4 years from the Texas Chamber of Commerce Executive Organization and the American Marketing Association than any chamber in Denton County. Whereas the Louisville Area Chamber of Commerce maintains a 4-star accreditation from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which places them in the top 3% of all Chamber of Commerce organizations in these United States of America. Whereas in recognition of this year's celebration, the Louisville Area Chamber of Commerce will provide several opportunities for business people and community members to connect. Therefore, Rudy Durham, Mayor of the City of Louisville, Texas, on behalf of the Louisville City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of October 16th through 20th, 2017, Texas Chamber of Commerce Week.
First of all, thank you very much. We appreciate the proclamation, but we're also very grateful for the relationship that we have with each and every one of you, because if we can't be successful without you, we hope that you can't be successful without us, and we believe that partnership is very critical. So thank you very much.
Do we have anyone here for Make a Difference Day? Okay. Proclamation. Whereas community social problems concern our city, and whereas we, the American people and citizens of the city of Louisville, have a tradition of philanthropy and volunteerism, and whereas connecting with others and working together through volunteer service can bridge the differences that separate people and help address social problems. Whereas by coming together to address the problems we all face, we are building a stronger and vibrant community and more resilient community. Whereas citizens wish to volunteer in their community on a day of doing good by giving where there is need, rebuilding what had been torn down, teaching where there was a desire to learn, and inspiring others to do the same. The City of Louisville, Home Depot, Louisville, Keep Louisville Beautiful, and our SEVA, serve together to make a difference and collaborate to promote a local day of doing good that collaborates and strengthens the spirit of volunteer service. Whereas USA Weekend Magazine and its affiliate newspapers and the Points of Light Foundation and its affiliate volunteer centers have joined to promote an annual National Day of Doing Good that celebrates and strengthens the spirit of volunteer services. Whereas the City of Louisville supports a vibrant community to enrich the lives of our citizens. Now, therefore, Rudy Durham, Mayor of the City of Louisville, Texas, and on behalf of the Louisville City Council, do hereby proclaim October 28th as Make a Difference Day.
Mayor and Council, thank you so much for recognizing October 28th as Make a Difference Day. As you know, this is our second year in Louisville, and we are truly committed to addressing needs in this neighborhood. And we have a lot of our board members here, but we also have two of our youngest volunteers, or three of our youngest volunteers here, who have been with us since they were born or since they were 5 years old. And one of our other goals, as noted in the proclamation, is to teach the next generation that it's important to serve in your community and to be leaders in your community. And we're hoping to do that. You guys want to see it? Okay.
Got some more pictures here.
Okay.
I was just going to say thank you so much for all of y'all's support. We really appreciate it. I'm with Keep Louisville Beautiful, and we've been doing this for about 30 years now, and we'll be out at Lila, so there's a lot of great things going on Make a Difference Day across our community, but if you'd like to volunteer, please come join us.
Anyone else? Well, thank you, guys. Okay, I believe we have two Rotarians here for the polio proclamation. Okay. And I'll let you guys get up here. Before we do the proclamation, there is a video.
Over 30 years ago, Rotary made a promise to the world, a promise that we would eradicate polio. With the help of our partners and friends, we've made incredible progress toward that goal.
So today we find ourselves on the brink of completely eradicating polio from the face of the earth. When, not if, we get there, it will be only the second time in history that a disease affecting humans has been eradicated.
The Gates Foundation believes that every child deserves a chance to live a healthy, productive life. That's why we're so excited about the partnership we have with Rotary International and the Global Polio Eradication Initiative in the final push to rid the world of polio.
The work of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative redefines what is possible. It shows what we can achieve when countries cooperate around a clear goal.
Africa, a rising continent, 1.2 billion strong. It can only be healthy with united action against preventable diseases like polio. It's important to immunize kids, not just in my own country, Nigeria, but all over the world.
Polio has been reduced by 99%, but Afghanistan is still suffering from it. Our objective is to attain the certification for a polio-free Afghanistan in 2017.
We need to be able to finish this important public health effort that so many have contributed to, and we really need your support for the end game.
We're proud to be part of this global effort to end polio forever, and we'll see it through to the end.
So please stay committed or become committed to add momentum to the final stretches.
The lives that have been changed and enhanced by the work that Rotary has done cannot be underestimated or underappreciated.
Every nation will benefit from a world without polio, and there are millions of children walking today who would otherwise be paralyzed. This is why I give my full support to this historic work.
I'm honored to join you as we walk this last mile toward our goal of a polio-free world.
Together, I'm confident we'll achieve a polio-free world. Let's drop to zero.
Let's drop to zero.
Let's drop to zero.
So it's my pleasure to do this proclamation today because polio has personally stricken my family. My grandfather suffered through polio, and he suffered with a limp throughout his life, and he was on my mom about the polio vaccination. So, you know, I really support this cause. So let's get into the proclamation. Whereas polio is crippling and potentially fatal disease that still threatens children in parts of Asia, and whereas it is critical that individuals be vaccinated against polio in order to avoid infection by the polio virus, and whereas the incidence of polio has declined throughout most of the world due to various education and immunization programs worldwide, and whereas Rotary International and individual Rotarians have contributed over $1 billion in spearheaded collaborations with donor governments, the World Health Organization, UNICEF, the Center for Disease Control, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, leading to significant reduction in the incidence of polio worldwide by over 99% since 1985. And whereas Rotarians from the Louisville Morning Rotary and the Louisville Noon Rotary Club have generously joined in these efforts through monetary contribution and participation in overseas immunization initiatives since the campaign to eradicate polio was launched in 1985. Whereas the Louisville Morning Rotary and the Louisville Rotary Club Noon members, along with fellow Rotarians worldwide, are joining together to match a $50 million per year challenge grant from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and are sponsoring local activities during the week of October 23rd through 29th, 2017 to educate the general public about polio and to raise funds for its eradication. Now, therefore, Rudy Durham, Mayor of the City of Louisville, Texas, and on behalf of the Louisville City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of October 22nd through 28th, 2017 as End Polio Now Week, and October 24th, 2017 as End Polio Now Day, and call upon the people of Louisville to join the two Louisville Rotary Clubs and their fellow citizens in taking the special observance. Do we have? So I have one for the afternoon Rotary President and one for the morning Rotary.
Thank you very much. We appreciate this very, very highly. We are fortunate here in America that our kids are well protected. However, as long as this virus remains on this earth, every child in this world is at risk of getting polio. So it's all of us committed to eradicating this virus, working together. We'd like to invite everybody after the meeting this evening to come over to Cobra Brewery and join us with Pints for Polio contributions. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, that's I mean, Bill Gates is behind this thing. I mean, he's got $50 million, $500 million a year, correct? Yeah. So that means he's going to match. So for 5 years. We're close, 1%. We're almost there. So thanks for the council and mayor for the proclamation, sir. And we're going to drink some beer here in a little bit. So thank you. You guys get it.
Only 10 more proclamations to go. So this one is for National Arbor Day. Do we have anyone? Got parks up? All right. Okay. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas Louisville has been recognized as a Tree City, USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting ways. And whereas the forests provide habitats to about 2/3 of all species on Earth and sustainable management of all types of forests is beneficial. And now, therefore, Rudy Durham, Mayor of the City of Louisville, Texas, and on behalf of the Louisville City Council, do hereby proclaim Friday, November 3rd as Arbor Day in the City of Louisville, and urge all citizens to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands and support our city's community forestry program. And I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations.
Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor, council members, park fans, Stacy Anaya with the Parks and Recreation Department. Thank you for recognizing the importance that trees play in our community. Often we don't realize that they're one of the most beneficial and economic sources of infrastructure that we have. You plant a tree and for 50 to 60 years it provides shade, stormwater, mitigation, and home for our feathered, furry, and scaly friends sometimes. And as we've committed as a city to protect our green centerpiece and extend the green, trees will continue to be an important part of that effort. And I'd like to introduce, or just throw some props out to Paul Moore and Omateo Ajay. Paul is our park supervisor and Omateo is our new park manager, and they're responsible for maintaining all the trees on public property, and to thank them for their efforts and make sure that we know how much we appreciate them. And they also invite Amy Wells up from Keep Louisville Beautiful, who's one of our key partners in tree planting efforts and helping educate the citizenry about the importance of trees.
It's me again. I wanted to say thank you again for all of y'all's support, your partnership. We really love planting trees in our community, and the Parks Department has been a great partner. Every year we go out and plant trees. We celebrate actually 2 Arbor Days because National Arbor Day is in April, but Texas Arbor Day is in November, so we make sure that we celebrate both. And if you're interested, we are going to have another proclamation reading out at our event on November 11th for our Trinity Trash Bash, and we'll be planting trees. We'll do a tree giveaway, and it's also open to all of our residents as well. We invite everybody to come out and celebrate trees with us and pick up a little bit of trash too. So thank you.
City Secretary.
Public hearing. Continued public hearing. Consideration of an ordinance granting a zone change request on 6.68 acres legally described as lots 11 and 12, Block A, ARTX Park Addition, and an ordinance granting a special use permit and 4 associated variances on the same land. The recommendation is that the City Council continue the public hearing to the November 20th, 2017 City Council meeting.
Councilman Troyer.
I move we continue the public hearing until the council meeting on November 20th.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Visitor Citizen Forum. At this time, any person with business before the council not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the council. No formal action can be taken on these items at this meeting. Our first speaker is Mike Travasana. I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
If you'd come up to the front, please.
Will you please state your name and your address for the record?
Hello, my name is Mike Trevisano. I live at 2574 Adam Lane, Louisville. I'm over in the neighborhood of the Lake Ridge neighborhood. It's kind of the south end access point to the lake. I'm here tonight to propose no littering signs. There's an excessive problem in the neighborhood, especially during the summer, spring, and even now in the month of October, but there's an excessive littering problem going on. All the streets leading up to the access point of East Hills Lake and Park. And what I mean by excessive, I mean there's a daily problem. There's, fast food littering, a number of different things I probably shouldn't say, illegal things that are going on. And the reason why I'm proposing no littering signs is not to say that suddenly all that littering is just going to disappear, but I think that it may help mitigate the problem.
Okay, thank you.
So just to add a little bit more, I've been in contact with City of Louisville, organizations like Keep Louisville Beautiful, Louisville Police Department, Louisville Fire Department, and they're all recommending that, or maybe some other action, be taken other than the limited resources from these organizations. There's not a whole lot of, police officers to be out monitoring people that are, littering every day. They do what they can, but I'm thinking that signs could help. So I've recently, over the last maybe 8 months now, been working weekly with Louisville Police Department, sending them pictures of this excessive problem. So the proof is there. It's not, made up, but I'd like to try and see what we can do to, making some signs, some sort of no littering signs, including something that says, there'll be a fine of some kind, and I think that might help.
Okay, thank you.
Kerbo.
Is there anything else?
No, Chief Kerbo will follow up.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Assistant City Manager Eric Ferris.
I'm going to ask Chief Tittle and Chief Kerbo to assist me tonight. Gentlemen, come on up. Mayor and Council, have a copy. I'm a receipt of a letter. That's really a great thing. This is a letter from former Mayor Dean Euchert, who served as mayor from 2009 to 2015. Also signing this letter is Denton County Commissioner Bobby Mitchell, who was Louisville Mayor 1993 to 2000. So tonight, I'm going to read this letter from those two former mayors. We, the undersigned, jointly nominate Rudy Durham for inclusion into the Louisville High School Hall of Fame. We believe that his lifelong history of achievement and community service deserve to be recognized by his induction into this esteemed group. Rudy Durham is a true native son, a fourth-generation resident of Louisville who has lived here his entire life. Rudy graduated from Louisville High School in 1974 after a distinguished career in academics, athletics, and student leadership. He was a state finalist in shot put in both his junior and senior years, placing him among the state's elite competitors in that event. He was the starting offensive lineman on the 1972 state finalist football team, was named to the all-district football team in 1972 and 1973, and was named LHS Outstanding Offensive Lineman in 1973.
Rudy served as freshman class president, spent 4 years on student council, and was student council vice president as a senior. He also was a member of National Honor Society, won the 1974 Math Department Award, and played 2 years in the Fighting Farmer Band. His pattern of high achievement continued after graduation from Louisville High School. He received a Bachelor of Business Administration degree at North Texas State University, now the University of North Texas, in 1980, majoring in real estate. He later became an appraiser with Denton Central Appraisal District, becoming chief appraiser in 2012. As of 2017, he is president-elect for Texas Association of Appraisal Districts. Rudy learned from his family the importance of community service. He joined the Zoning Board of Adjustment in 1986 and was appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission in 1990. In 1994, he was elected to the first of 9 terms on the Louisville City Council, spanning 21 years and including multiple times serving as Mayor Pro Tem and Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. He has served multiple terms as the city's representative on the Regional Transportation Council, through the North Central Texas Council of Governments and the Dallas Regional Mobility Coalition, and continued to serve to this date.
In 2015, he successfully ran for mayor and continues to serve in this position. He is the 23rd person to serve as Louisville's mayor and the 5th graduate of LHS to do so. Away from City Hall, Rudy has been a frequent visitor to LISD campuses across the district, providing today's students with an outstanding example they can follow. Louisville High School has a special place in his heart, and he attends many LHS events and programs. Rudy Durham has remained true to his deep Louisville roots, has grown from a team leader on campus into a pillar of the Louisville community. We encourage you to recognize his contributions by inducting him into the LHS Hall of Fame. And now we have a video, I believe.
Thank you. I don't have anything else to say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One more thing. I believe you have some family members in this audience here that are sharing this night with us. So I'd ask for the family members and friends to please stand.
As any of them, sorry. Thank y'all very much. City Secretary.
That concludes visitor citizens forum. Next item is consent agenda. All of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. For a citizen to request removal of an item, a speaker card must be filled out and submitted to the city secretary. I've received no cards.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion for approval and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Agenda item 5. Consideration of a variance to Section 6-182 regarding room size for a proposed hotel located on the southeast corner of East Vista Ridge Mall Drive and Lake Vista Drive. The proposed Aloft Hotel requests a variance of 55% of its rooms to be 300 square feet instead of the required 325 square feet. The recommendation is that the City Council approve the variance request as set forth in the caption above. Planning Director Richard Lutke is here to answer any questions council may have.
Okay.
Move to approve as presented if there's, or this is a regular hearing, so move to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion, opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Agenda item 6, consideration of an ordinance amending section 2-201 fee schedule. This ordinance adjusts the wholesale and industrial surcharge rates, which have been recommended as a result of the city's annual review. The recommendation is that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Okay. TJ.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? City Secretary, excuse me, Attorney.
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, amending the Louisville Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Section 2-201 fee schedule with various fees charged by several departments of the city, providing a repealer, providing for severability, providing an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Okay. Is there any discussions? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Agenda item 7, consideration of an appointment to place number 7 on the Louisville Arts Advisory Board as requested by Councilman Ferguson. During the recent board appointment process, the appointment to place number 7 of the Louisville Arts Advisory Board was tabled. At the request of Councilman Ferguson, this item has been brought back for consideration. The recommendation is that the City Council consider an appointment as set forth in the caption.
Councilman Ferguson.
Thank you, Mayor. So this position briefly was left open. We had a board that has certain responsibilities preset, hospital representative, hotel, education, and so forth. From there, it's mostly citizens, but from the beginning, we'd always had or had someone specifically who worked in the arts on a day-to-day basis, and had hoped to keep having someone with that kind of background on the board. We did have an individual interested in this position but concerned about possible future conflicts. We've been able to resolve those issues. So at this time, I would recommend that we appoint Eric Bowman to this position.
Second.
Okay. That was a motion, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is any discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Okay. Now we'll go with reports. Nika.
Mayor, I do tonight. I have a present. It's one of those nights that I have a present for you.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I'll take 2.
Last time it was a can of peanut brittle that had snakes jumping out of it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, what you just got is a copy, hot off the presses, of our new community profile. It has a lot of information about Louisville, a lot of facts and figures, and what an amazing place Louisville is to do business, to also live and come and visit. This is also going to be in a digital format on our website. This is a document that we use a lot for business recruitment and retention, so we just wanted you to have your own copy. But if you need any more copies for any special events or any meetings that you're going to, please let us know. Also, again, it is on the website for everybody else that may need some of this information. It's telling you all the qualities that Louisville has, again, what we call it the Louisville Advantage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looks nice.
Yes.
Mayor, just a reminder that we have Spooktacular Trails and Glow Run coming up on Saturday, October 28th from 5 to 9 at the Lone Star of Toyota Railroad Park.
Okay. Chief?
Yes, I'm going to steal Chief Kerbo's thunder and just remind y'all that this Saturday is our annual Battle of the Badge tournament. It's put together by the Louisville Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association to help raise funds for the Child Advocacy Center of Denton County. This year's format's going to be a little different, where they have brackets separated where you have police officers playing police officers and firemen playing firemen. So the true championship game will actually be a Battle of the Badge between a fire department and police department representatives. But the annual Louisville Police and Fire game will begin at 8 o'clock that morning. And I just want to go on record as saying we're going to do our darndest to bring the trophy back to the fire department this year. So y'all come on out and watch the game.
Thank you. Okay. Chief?
Chief Tittle, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. It'll be a great event. And Mayor, just want to congratulate you once again on your induction into the Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Russ.
Mayor, the lake is going down a little bit. We're 1 foot below the conservation pool level.
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah. Brenda?
Yes, Mayor. After a scheduling mix-up with council, I wanted to put it on the record that our Jean Carey Animal Shelter and Adoption Center dedication is Saturday, October 28th from 10 a.m. to noon, and the dedication ceremony will actually be at 11:30 a.m.
Okay. Eric?
Congratulations, sir.
Okay, Mayor, everybody keeps talking about how beautiful it is and how they would like to get outside. So get out your calendars. I've got some great events that are coming up. The first one I talked about last week, this Saturday, October 21st, from 9 to 11:30 at Lizdola, which is LISD Outdoor Learning Area. KLB's having their 27th annual beautification project, and volunteers will help with trail restoration and wildflower plantings. So there's breakfast, there's t-shirts, it's a lot of fun. It's just a couple hours out of your morning, and the weather is gorgeous, so a great time to do it. So the next event is Saturday, October 28th from 9 to noon. Once again, a short time out of your day. This one is going to be at Leela, and it's the KLB Make a Difference Day. They're going to be going from 9 a.m. to noon, and then later in November 11th, hopefully the weather will still be warm when it gets to this time, because it's been some cold days on the Trinity Trash Bash, but KLB will be having their Trinity Trash Bash November 11th from 8 to 11:30. That's out at Lake Park. And that's one of those, like I say, you'll never have more fun picking up trash. So it's a great, great time. And Mayor, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, Brandon.
No report, just congratulations. I noticed throughout the pictures through the years, the smile stayed the same.
It's true. It's true. TJ?
Mayor, I'd like to mention something that seems to have been in the media quite a bit lately, and that's the flag. We have a wonderful ceremony here in Louisville. It's a flag retirement ceremony. This will be our 7th year. Would encourage any of y'all that have been fired up about the flag lately, come on out. This is usually a relatively lightly attended affair, but it is amazing in that it covers education on how to deal with the flag. It covers how to show the proper respect for retiring of a flag, and most importantly, we get to see those sharp-looking police honor guard and our Boy Scouts and our Girl Scouts. So come on out. It'll be at the Wayne Ferguson Plaza this Saturday, the 21st at 1 p.m.
Okay, thank you. City Manager?
So the mayor, of course, is humble as always. But I do want to tell you that you should all go out to the football game this Friday night, where our mayor will actually be inducted into the Hall of Fame. We're very, very proud of you, Mayor. He will also be leading the parade this Wednesday, the homecoming parade. So from all of staff, Mayor, congratulations.
Thank you. And I forgot to introduce my family here. I did not see them back here. I'm sorry. And I'm going to miss somebody because I'll see if I can see now. Parents, Marshall and Sue Ann Durham. My aunt, Beth, and her husband, Coy Chisholm. Rory Durham, Debbie. There's too many. Hannah. my sister, Marshan, Roddy, and his wife, Dixie. So, is that everybody? Okay, good. Thank
you.
Neil.
Well, Mayor, we've been joined by the Honorable Bobby Mitchell, and although she was not here for the presentation, Ms. Mitchell, I would certainly invite you to have the opportunity to speak for a moment if you'd like.
Putting the pressure on you, Bobby.
Can I tell a joke about Rudy?
Sure. Tell a really bad story.
The Honorable Mayor and council members and staff and all that's here, I just want to add my congratulations to one of my children, Rudy Durham. I congratulate you, Rudy. If there's anyone that deserves this, it's you. You're such a selfless person, and you don't expect a lot of recognition like the rest of us that's running around from here to there. You're just Rudy, and you've been the same person that I guess I've known you about 30 or 40 years now, but the same Rudy. When you call him, whether it's at the city or at the appraisal district, you will get help because he is a servant person. I appreciate you, and I'm glad the school recognized you because of all the inductees that they've had. You deserve to be one of those because you are the best. I love you, and I know I taught you everything you know.
Good. It reminded me, Bobby, when you were out the other day at the, what do we call it, the gate opening or something on the
ribbon cutting.
on Valley Ridge. So it's another pathway around the north side of Louisville that's been opened up. We need to work on the speed limit.
Yes, sir, we are.
60?
Ours is way too slow.
60, 65?
Okay.
We're working on it.
So continuing, Mayor, my congratulations also. It's only the second time I've seen you blush. I'm not sure I'm going to recall the first time. I'm not sure you want me to recall the first time.
Please don't.
But well-deserved. It was, it's been always kind of a surprise to me when I go to LHS and look them on the wall and your picture's not there. So I guess finally, overdue, well-deserved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So MCL Grand, actually one other comment, I'm not going to be saying anything about the Battle of the Badge. I gaffed that term one time. You may recall, maybe not, but I'm not going to make that mistake again. If you don't recall, I'll tell you later. So MCL Grand, public events, I already mentioned the flag ceremony by the Morning Rotary. Haunted, presented by our theater's production company, 4 shows from October 26th through the 29th. Little Shop of Horrors, presented by the Acting Studio, again, 4 shows from the 27th through the 29th. LuLaRoe Shopping Event on the 29th. Yoon Soo Nam, Draw the Message, Paint the Heart gallery exhibit begins November 4th. Seussical, the musical, is presented by Christian Youth Theater, November 10th through 12th, and 5 shows. The Rocktober concerts continue, and I know it's a Celtic band, but help me out.
Rathmore.
The Rathmores? Rathmores, that's what it is. It hit me. So they continue on through the 31st when the final concert should be really fun with Here Come the Mummies, and you're invited to wear a costume. Yoga in the Plaza continues on Wednesdays through November. Acoustic jams always every Friday, and I keep saying it, but large crowds and amazing performances. And then finally, the Visual Arts League's Artist Choice exhibit will continue through October 28th, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Troyer.
I want to add my congratulations to your high school Hall of Fame choice.
Thank you.
And I also want to compliment Chief Tittle and the entire fire department for putting on an excellent open house this past weekend. I saw a lot of kids having lots of fun trying to direct water through the targets, climbing around the equipment. Everybody was having a good time, so it was very good. And also, Chief Kerbo with the representation of the police department there, the SWAT and all the other machines are always a big hit, so very well done.
Thank you. Counselor. City Secretary.
I just want to remind everyone that early voting for the constitutional and city charter amendment starts next Monday. Early voting dates, times, and locations are all available on our website.
Okay, thank you. Officer, thank you for your service to the community. Thank you. And do I need to read these out with it? Okay. Go ahead with closed session.
Closed session. In accordance with Texas Government Code Subchapter D, Number 1, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, legal issues regarding DFW sanitary landfills request for expansion. 2, Section 551.072, real estate, property acquisition. And 3, Section 551.087, economic development, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations.
Okay. We'll now go into closed session. We'll reconvene. Is there any action to be taken?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.